Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining me for our online service this morning. I am Lynne Grobsky, Ministerial Intern at the Mattituck Unitarian Universalist Society. I welcome both the Unitarian Universalist Church of Meriden and the Mattituck Unitarian Universalist Society, and any guests who are attending this morning. On this last Sunday of December, with Christmas behind us and the new year beckoning us on, we finish our theme of stillness. We, as Unitarian Universalists, start each service with the lighting of our chalice.
Good morning. Together with Unitarian Universalists across the globe, we begin our time together by lighting the symbol of our faith, the flaming chalice. Will you join with me this morning as we use the words to the December global chalice lighting, which you will find displayed on your screen. For millennia, the fire has been in the center of human communities. Our ancestors used to gather around it. Today, we are assembling around this flame to renew our community. May the flame of our chalice make this community warmer and stronger. Let us worship together this morning.
Stillness carry me, find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true
It's magical. You look out the window and you see those first snowflakes start to fall, and you can't help but get a little excited that, is this going to be a big storm? And
depending on the weather, the temperature, humidity, everything you want to take into consideration with it. There's not supposed to be any two alike.
In a time before computers, digital cameras, and even electricity, 10-year-old Wilson Bentley had a dream: to capture the beauty of a snow crystal.
Always, from the very beginning, it was the snowflakes that fascinated me most. The farm folks up in this country dread the winter, but I was supremely happy.
Oh, I think the whole thing is incredibly strange and special. The idea of this guy running around chasing snowflakes and making these negatives of them, it's just astonishing. It's so obsessive and passionate, and to make it then a life's work. It's a great story.
Bentley was born on February 9th, 1865, in Jericho, Vermont. His father was a farmer, and his mother was a teacher.
His mother had an old microscope that she used in her school teaching. So Bentley sat out in the shed in the back of the house, using the old microscope and looking at snow crystals. He did this again and again and again.
Bentley was a lover of nature, and he was infatuated with the symmetry of the snowflake. There was hexagonal beauty in the structures themselves.
I became possessed with a great desire to show people this wonderful loveliness.
He decided he had to get a camera.
This is the actual piece that he purchased. It's a bellows camera. The rest of it he had to adapt for the camera and then add the microscope onto it. One of the problems he had was that the microscope was in the front and he had to view the snowflake from behind, and he was unable to reach and focus. So what he did, he designed this pulley system with a string and some wooden wheels, and he attached it to the fine focus of the microscope so that when he was behind the camera, looking through it, he'd be able to focus the microscope to get a clear picture of the snowflake.
Yeah, at the time, photography was probably only 20 years old, and most of it was portrait photography. So to interface the camera with the microscope was a rather unique thing.
The actual making of these photographs couldn't have been more difficult, could not have been harder. It's got this guy chasing around in some field with this piece of black velvet, catching the thing on, catching a little snowflake on the piece of black velvet, and then he's manipulating it with a feather.
They had chickens in their chicken coop, and he would get a feather. There's always feathers, he keeps feathers all over the place. He picked up a feather, and with that feather, he could move that snowflake around to get just the ones that he wanted and push away the others.
He'd bring it back in the shed, and he'd very carefully look at it. And if he found a snow crystal he wanted to photograph, he would pick it up very gently and put it on the microscope slide. Then he would put that in front of the camera and point the camera out into the storm so you get in the flight. He worked with transmitted light. He had no electricity, so he had to use the light, natural light that he was able to get. It would take him anywhere from maybe 20 seconds to maybe 2 minutes for the exposure. But that's how we got it.
On January 15th, 1885, Wilson Bentley took the very first photograph of a snow crystal.
The day that I developed the first negative made by this method, I felt like falling on my knees beside that apparatus and worshiping it. I knew then that what I had dreamed of doing was possible. It was the greatest moment of my life.
They are beautiful photographs, first and foremost. And I think that that's the product of this sort of single-minded vision, just to get it right, to make them look handsome.
This was his obsession for the rest of his life. I think you could compare it to the Holy Grail. He was searching for that most magnificent of all snow crystals.
Oh, for 1,000 hands, 1,000 cameras to preserve more of this exquisite beauty, so lavishly scattered over the earth.
Bentley was motivated from within and not from his family who kind of looked down their nose at what he was doing.
His father and brother never appreciated what he did, and they thought it was an absolute waste of time.
There's always work to do on the farm, and he's out there taking pictures of stupid snowflakes.
In spite of a lack of understanding and support, Bentley went on to take over 5,000 photographs of snowflakes.
Well, it's remarkable that he was able to photograph as many photographs as he did in a relatively short period of time. I think on some days he was able to photograph more than 50 snow crystals in a single day or a single snowstorm.
I think he was just looking at them, just really getting off on the total weirdness and beauty and specialness of them.
It's not the same kind of world that we had in those days. I don't think people would want to spend that amount of time. They don't have time for this, time for that. I got to do this. I got an appointment here. No way.
In the fall of 1931, after years of effort, Bentley finally convinced a publisher to print a complete collection of his snow crystal images.
2 days after Thanksgiving, 3 copies of his book arrived in the mail. And I had to believe he was just overjoyed at that. However, he did not have too much time to enjoy it. A week or so later, I believe he was coming back from Jericho, and I've been told it was pretty cold out and pretty wet and some snow down on the ground, and he got pneumonia. They had a nurse come in, but it was too late. He was getting sicker and sicker, and 2 days before Christmas, 1931, he died.
When he died, I felt badly about it because I just knew that we had lost somebody that was far ahead of everybody else in this particular science.
By and large, I think most people don't realize who Bentley was, and yet most of the time when you see an image of a snowflake, it's either the actual image that Bentley took or photographed, or it's an artist's reconstruction of that snowflake.
I think he is very happy that so many are beginning to appreciate what he had been doing. Really. I hope he is, but I have an idea.
You are tuning into this service for a reason, maybe several reasons. You might have an expectation that you are coming to a place of warm and gentle silence. You might be here because you have wounds that need soothing and comforting. You might be here because you are frightened for the future. The chaos of the world keeps you up at night. You seek the comfort of being in the presence of community. You may be lonely, especially during this time of the pandemic. You may be hypervigilant about who you're with and the contacts made by your family members. You come here to connect to others and relieve your loneliness. You may be confused, feeling that your way is blocked. Maybe the pandemic has greatly altered or taken away your livelihood. You come here to find comfort. You may be here because your life feels overwhelming. Maybe you're working from home and having to homeschool your children at the same time. You come here so that our loving community can help share your burdens. You might be here in the hopes that you will glean insights into your heart and soul. Maybe you want to be in a silence that calms you, that enables you to listen to your heart. You might, as a result, be renewed by your experience of worship here today. In our day-to-day lives, our culture demands performance and to-do lists. Some of us, me included, base our self-worth on how much we accomplish each day. Karl Honorer wrote, "The culture is telling us to go faster and faster, cram more and more into less and less time." One of the main benefits of slowing down is we start to get to know ourselves better. We find and forge the right path for us through life. We gather here today for the opportunity to slow down, to open up the path to our seat of wisdom. Being here today means you are choosing to let go of the need to complete your to-do list. You are choosing to rest, trusting that the world will go on perfectly fine without you. Our hearts need our attention, for only then can they speak to us loudly enough for us to hear them. We gather here to come into this place of stillness and joy, to remember who we really are, how much we are loved, feeling gratitude to ourselves for this chance to renew our faith and trust in the divine, to renew our sense of who we are. It is getting harder and harder, though, to make time for ourselves to go within. The concept of Sabbath, taking a day of rest, is a model that we can use to create a modern ritual of carving out space for ourselves. Gathering at church can be a meaningful part of a day of Sabbath. In taking this time to nurture our souls, research has shown that keeping a Sabbath enhances our mental and physical health. The traditional Jewish Shabbat focuses on gathering in community with others. Social connections are good for us in many ways. Relationships need nurturing, which takes time. Taking time for church results in stronger community relationships. The sacred practice of attending a service elevates us out of our everyday lives into something deeper, a deeper presence. Even online, our presence is felt by the people in attendance. Making attending a service a priority results in relationships growing deeper over time. We need one another as checks and balances for what we say and do. Are we enhancing community or disrupting it? We also check in with what is happening with our bodies and our spirits. This is a poem entitled Invitation to Arrive and Rest by Sherry Woodbury. Out of the din of the city, away from the noise of the crowds, we come to rest in this moment, in this place, set apart from the never-ending to-do lists, embracing the seventh day, a day of rest. We come to the warmth and stillness of this sacred hour. Remember, You have chosen to be here. Something in your life led you to arrive here now. Whatever tasks and cares await you, now, for this brief time, simply rest. Allow your soul to be nurtured. Let the waves in your mind and heart gradually subside as you come home to yourself, holy and whole. So in gathering here today, we are making connections. We are first making connections to our inner world. We then make connections with the others who are here. We make connections to the natural world. Finally, we make connections to the transcendent, the divine, the energy of life. Many of the world's wisdom traditions include each of these levels of connection that have kept communities together, that have helped people grieve loss and celebrate joy. Our stories that we share help us make moral sense out of chaos and catastrophe. Before we can connect to others, however, we must first connect to ourselves. The question, who am I? Necessarily leads to, who am I with? The people in our lives shape us in many subtle and not so subtle ways. Research has proven that our connections to others are what make life meaningful. Relationships with friends, families, and partners are what matter most. Coming to church, even online, strengthens our connections, which improve the quality of life and actually help us live longer. Coming to church, participating in the ritual, brings us to that heart space that allows deeper reflection on life's big questions together. Candles of Community builds our community through suffering and laughter. We learn empathy for another's experiences. We have the sense of belonging to a bigger group with others who have similar experiences, emotions, and worries as we do. This is a poem by Mark Bellatini entitled Viva Negativa. Not the silence of a child finally asleep in a crib. Not the silence of pear blossoms falling. Not the silence of singers after the song. Not the silence of embarrassed strangers. Not the silence of streets when gunshot stops. Not the silence of rage. Not the red-faced silence of frustration. Not the silence of the exhausted. Not the silence of the gardener gardening alone, but this, the silence of those who have been together and do not need to hide their aloneness with words. The silence of lovers who have come to a place of quiet comfort. The silence of a newborn to the breast. The silence of an overflowing human heart under the stars at night. The silence of friends holding still in a long and tender embrace. It takes courage to be in community. As we open ourselves up to deeper connections, we increase our vulnerability. We may fear judgment from others. Our need for belonging is great, but then we fear what that may demand from us. We want to be considered unique and special. The times we are lonely or afraid are the times when we need community the most. It is worth the effort to be here.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in the beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
In this month's theme of stillness, it is a challenge for many of us to find moments of stillness. It requires that we withdraw from the rat race for a period of time, whether it's 2 minutes or 2 days. Words are very powerful. If we call life a rat race, that is what it will be. As I mentioned before, many of us predicate our self-worth on what we accomplish each day. I found myself having to have justification for just doing nothing. Unnecessary self-restrictions and self-imposed burdens weigh many of us down and prevent us from feeling peace within. The fact is that quiet time alone is not a luxury only for the retired or the lazy. It is valuable time well spent because it helps us to awaken to what we most need to remember about ourselves and our lives. The following video highlights the effects of being in the rat race. So Grand Central Station has become the ultimate symbol of a crowded and busy place, hardly a place for serenity. Of the hundreds of people who saw Joshua Bell, only 6 stopped to watch him. It is my belief that serenity is anywhere you seek it. Those 6 people managed to find it. How sad that mothers pulled their children away. And I know if it were me and I was teaching 3rd grade and I had to get to school by 8 a.m. or else I would have a classroom full of children waiting for me, I might have pulled my child away from Joshua Bell as well. Another effect that I have found of being in the rat race is road rage. I could be driving, listening to music, and being in a good mood, when all of a sudden someone cuts me off. Not only has my good mood vanished, I am angry and impatient, especially when they're not even going the speed limit. That drives me crazy. What happened to my serenity? Is that how I want to spend my time when driving in my car? So I have been working on patience and giving myself enough time to get to where I'm going. The better I get at finding ways to add more stillness to my life, the better able I am to maintain serenity during not so serene times. One way I have found to instill more serenity in my life is to do a shower still point. And this is from the book Moments in Between by David Kuntz. And I take this from the book. Close your eyes and take some time to feel the water on your body. Notice its temperature, just how it feels. Notice what else you're feeling. Breathe deeply, 1, 2, 3 times slowly. As your physical energy is aware of the water, at the same time, allow your spiritual energy to turn inward. Both movements are a part of the same you and happen in the same moment. Let the unwelcome effects of the past day wash off your soul, just as its physical residue washes off your body. Let your spirit be refreshed with the cool, clean water of grace, just as the warm, clean water brings relaxation and rejuvenation to your body. You bring to mind those whom you will likely encounter today, and you recall from the past those who would be your models. End quote. Another way I have found to bring more stillness into my life is to fix a cup of tea. And I've only been drinking tea about a year now. Before that, I would only have coffee. So it's a big change for me. So I take the time to drink it mindfully, noticing the temperature, tuning into my 5 senses to focus on the joy of taking 5 minutes to take a break from the rat race. If a project, like writing a sermon, isn't going well, I've learned to stop and take 5 minutes to drink some tea. I always come back refreshed with a clear head. It's interesting to me to note that coffee didn't do that for me. Tea does. And I love it. Have there been times in your life when time seemed to stand still? Tony shared some moments of when time seemed to stand still for him as a child. What helps us notice time standing still? For me, it's not thinking about the past or the future, but focusing on the present moment. I have just within the last week or so decided to start quilting again after a 2-year hiatus. I have a girlfriend who would like me to teach her. And so I've set up my quilt studio, and I'm actually making a quilt for my boyfriend for his Christmas present. And so something like quilting keeps me in the moment and time stands still. Also, when I'm drawing or writing a poem, those activities do the same thing. They pull me into the present by the sheer amount of attention required to do the task at hand. Thoughts about the past or future fade away. Now that Christmas is behind us, my hope is that you find more ways to bring more stillness into your daily life. Let us pray. Spirit of life, in this post-Christmas pandemic time, with the new year just around the corner, so many of us are suffering from the effects of the pandemic. We are isolated and miss our friends and loved ones. Many are suffering financially from losing their livelihoods. Many are grieving the loss of loved ones from COVID. There is so much racial injustice. Many people of color have been hit especially hard during this time. We are fearful about the future. Can our democracy survive? Please help us to have hope that the new administration will be a healing force. Please help our nation to heal from conflict and racial injustice. Help us to have resilience so that we may come through the other side of this pandemic reborn. May it be so. Amen. The first and fourth Sundays of each month are Share the Plate Sundays at the Mattituck Unitarian Universalist Society. As a congregation, we have committed to giving half of the collection on these two Sundays each month to our Social Justice Fund. Social justice funds are used to support causes which embody our principles in the larger world. So please give generously. Thank you.
Our service may be drawing to a close, but there's always coffee hour. Please Pour a cup of your favorite beverage and zoom on in. Join us for coffee at go.uucentralct.org/coffee. That's go.uucentralct.org/coffee. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Holy ones, it is time to extinguish our chalice and draw our time together to a close. The chalice flame represents our eternal divine spark, which lives on in each one of us. May you shine your light ever more brightly during the coming days until we meet again. May you have peace and love in your hearts. Beloveds, have a happy new year, and I'll see you next time.